How about another round for Brewsday Tuesday? Here is Huck and Big Nate.
Well, we're still going strong, Huck.
Yes, we are.
Welcome into Brewsday Tuesday, round 2 for your Groundhog Day. A little Alabama high test for your, in our case, our mouths, livers, kidneys, but for your ear hole or eyes, if you happen to be watching on Facebook or YouTube, which is an option now. But we liked Alabama so much, we're staying there.
Yeah, 2 whole weeks
Groundhog's
in Alabama.
Day.
There you go, Groundhog's Day. So what are you drinking?
I am in my hand holding, you did it to me. I did it to you earlier with the asking you a question when you were drinking. You got me when I was pouring. The TrimTab Brewing IPA, Gravitational Nectar.
Gravitational Nectar.
Well,
I've got, go ahead.
The measurements on this, ABV, 6.3%. Not a Huck session, if you will. Not strong enough. They give you the IBUs, which I always love, but
yeah, that what you know what that makes you?
What?
A beer nerd.
I think I'm just a nerd. Like,
oh well, maybe
I inherited it from my father, and there's a story I'll tell you about that in a second. But right. 61 IBUs and the color intensity, which I didn't even know there was a scale for, 10 SRM, whatever that means. This, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, this is what 10 SRM looks like.
I think I'm only about an 8. So I have, again, from Singing River Brewing Company in Alabama, Florence, Alabama, I believe. They're making some good beer here, these folks. And this one is really cool can. It says IPA Calypse Now. But if you read it in the
Apocalypse Now.
IP Apocalypse Now.
I mean, I'm a sucker for a good graphic. You throw a skull in there, I'm all
yeah.
aboard.
Well, that's my favorite Vietnam era movie. I am Vietnam era, the very end of the war. I was in high school when they ended the draft.
I have a hard time. Apocalypse Now or Full Metal Jacket.
They're both good. But Apocalypse Now, and that's the one where Charlie doesn't surf.
Charlie don't surf.
Charlie don't surf.
I mean,
great movie.
No, it was fantastic.
Yeah. Horrible war though. All wars are horrible. I hope we're not getting back into
apparently
much more.
Marlon Brando, real difficult to work with.
Yes,
for that one.
Yes,
he showed up to set like 100 pounds overweight, so like it was just all had to be like close up shots of him.
Yeah,
great movie though.
Yep.
All right, so I want to talk about that beer nerd thing. I think I inherited this. My dad, when I was growing up, he's an engineer, a civil engineer, so he tracks data and analyzes emergency management for floodplains, stuff like that. But he's always been one of the nerdiest people I've ever known. He used to play the Madden video games, and he had binders full of his statistics that he had a spreadsheet. He would just write everything down, save this data, and then like analyze at the end of the season. He just recently moved, and I'm pretty sure he threw them all out. But
that's crazy.
That's probably where that like tracking data comes from.
I'm never even played that game.
Well, now the computers will track it for you. So I kind of was like, why are you saving this? What benefit does this have to you? I just like to know the numbers. So I come by it honestly, defending myself here.
Fair enough.
You want to learn a little something about beer? Because I do.
Sure. Where are we at? Let's see. I had a beer fact. It's again, I trend political. And so my beer fact for the day is that we know that the beer was around 5,000 years ago. It was also around about 150 years ago. And that was the time of the Civil War. Well, killing a bunch of rebels costs a lot of money. So the very first tax on beer was created by none other than Abraham Lincoln. And it was so popular because a lot of the German settlers were drinking American breweries, German lagers, and we reached 4,000 breweries in 1870. And I don't think it was because of the tax, but in spite of the tax. And now we're back. We passed that mark, I think, in I want to say 2012 or so. We're up to about 9,000, 12,000, somewhere between there. So.
You know what's really shocking about that to me? That predates Prohibition.
Yes.
Which a big part of coming out of Prohibition was taxes and tariffs on the product. So we were already generating revenue for the federal government. And they just said, nah, we don't need that.
I know. And then, and when we came out of Prohibition, there were like 5 breweries, Yingling, Bud, the predecessors, the Miller, Bud Light, Coors, those guys. And all the beer had to be, when they signed on Huck's birthday, they signed an executive order freeing the beer before they fully validated Prohibition, ending Prohibition. So all beer had to be 4%. And to this day, most beer is 4%. Come on, guys, think out of the can.
These blue laws are absurd.
And the green ones too.
There's an interesting, we could do a whole show on the history of Prohibition, but one of the things that places were doing is they would give these bricks that was basically just like compressed grapes. And the bricks had printed on them what you couldn't do with them because otherwise you would be making wine. And it had every step. So you have these people in their own home just making wine because they were told what not to do. I love loopholes.
Well, yeah, it's like that Naked Pig beer we were drinking. They had the Blind Pig. A bunch of breweries, Blind Pig, and restaurants, because you couldn't charge for alcohol, but you could give it away. And so they would have a blind pig. You go in to see the blind pig and pay $10 to see the blind pig, and you get 4 pints.
That's like there was a sandwich in a lot of places that like it wasn't actually a sandwich, but you ordered it and.
Oh, that's this year. That's New York City this year.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Did I say that? they had to make a law that crackers were not a meal.
If you eat enough crackers.
I've had crackers for a meal.
Yeah. They've never been a college student.
When I was a kid, I was poor. I had jam sandwich, 2 pieces of bread, jammed together. Oh. You still got the cricket thing over there that Chris used to do.
No, that's a good one. It doesn't deserve crickets. I'm a sucker for bad jokes, so I'll probably never.
So what's your beer fact?
All right. So as we've talked about, I like going back in history and looking at things. So February 2008, not even all that far away. Granted, I was still not drinking age, so this didn't affect me, but it probably affected a lot of people. There was a hop shortage that was reportedly due to a fire in Washington state and bad storms in Germany. It led to brewers banding together to solve a problem in the supply chain. And you have brewers brewing Belgian-style beers, sours, and beers with lower IBUs. So kind of like an IPA shortage. Other brewers with contracts securing their hop sources were sharing what they can with breweries who needed the hops. And Boston Beer Company sold its supply of hops at cost to other brewers because they're good people over there.
There's been a history of breweries helping each other out, especially small brewers. But I was in a town somewhere, and it's like I remember where I mean, I shouldn't say. No, it was in Montana, and I'm pretty sure they're not listening to this. And they had like a little beer festival for us, the beer writers, and they were talking about how they needed something, and they said, well, the guy came over and said, well, I could use this, and they all said, no, we don't have any. Sorry, we can't really help you out. And he walked away, and this is like all brewers. And they, he never gives us anything back. So we don't ever give him anything. So it works, but it is a give and take. If you're going to take, you need to give. At least say thank you, right? Don't just say thank.
If you're going to be a part of the community, you should take and give.
Right.
So I think that's fair. I get it.
But it's funny that they actually called the dude out right there in front of me, I was like, okay. He's a bad guy.
It's uncomfortable. I'm going to stop drinking his beer.
Yeah.
No, there ever... Okay, so I usually like to focus on the positive, but we'll have some fun. I want to dig into the negative here.
Okay.
Has there ever been an interaction at a brewery, and you don't have to name them, a brewery with anyone on the staff that has made you like, yeah, I'm not drinking their beer ever again?
Well, yeah. I had a guy in a nearby city that opened a brewery, and his first thing was he opened a brewery and he did a focus group, and he came out and he decided he's going to make beer that women like. And at the time, this was probably 12 years ago, that most women were not drinking craft beer. And, and that was just the first thing. So anyway, so I went there with my brother-in-law and some people, and we toured the brewery, and I told him, who I was. And, that I was writing about beers, Huck's Beer Buzz. And we chatted, and then he said he's gonna make an IPA. And I said, that'd be great. I'd love to try that for you. I mean, I'd do a review or whatever. He said, okay. So then we go around and, a couple months later, I see he's got the IPA. So I sent him an email. I said, hey, I was talking to you about that IPA. I was wondering if you want me to, drink some of it and give you a review. He goes, yeah, you can get over to Kroger's. I went, okay. Guess what? I'm not driving to the Roanoke Kroger's and picking up and buying your beer to publicize it. I'm not doing it. So even he went under about 3 years later.
Yeah, I mean, he was
not surprisingly
asking for free advertising essentially, and that's
right. And I don't mind. I don't even want you to pay me, but if you want me, of course, there's some people who say if I get the beer free, then I shouldn't judge it. But I mean, I get a lot of beer free, and I judge most of it, and I try to be fair. I'm just not going to post a really negative review, but I made an exception in his case. Yeah. His beer was not even good.
No, I mean, you're a man of integrity. And I don't think if someone gives you free beer, I think you're going to be fair with your opinion.
Right.
I think in that case, though, if you have to go buy the beer, as critical as possible.
Right. Yeah.
Honest to everything and
I tell them that I'm like, you can send me some beer and I'll drink it and I will be nice because we're not mean anyway. I mean, occasionally, I mean, I try not to drink any beers under 3 or even rate beers under 3. But sometimes I make a mistake and buy a beer that's bad and I didn't know it. But normally it's an excuse for that. But I mean, the only other thing the biggest problem I have with breweries, and this is really solving itself, is that why would you only serve pints of your beer? You got 18 beers, and the only way I can taste them all is to buy 18 pints of beer. I'm not going to do it. Now, of course, they'll give you a taster, but did they want to really give me 17 tasters? And then I drink one beer. I've already had a whole beer right there, maybe 2.
Add flights to the menu. It's
right. And
really
so
not that hard.
The really progressive breweries now are like, here's our flight prices. And all these beers are $2 for 4-ounce pour. And all these beers are $3 and these beers are $4. So you can mix and match, get whatever you want.
I like that restaurants are starting to jump in on the flight game as well. Because if I go someplace that has like 32 taps, I'm not going to sit here and drink 32 beers. And while I do know what I like, and I'm probably not going to just go for your Mick Ultra, probably don't need to try that one, but I would like to have a flight so I know, hey, this is good. Let's go for a pint of it. So if any restaurants or brewers out there are listening, flights are the way to go.
Well, the other one is the ones that
you can still charge for it.
You have the wristband and you hold it up and then you pour your own beer. Those are pretty cool.
I like that.
That's by the ounce.
I like yeah. I mean, there's options. It's just, you got to have a way for people to sample your product. I don't think
there's any of those in Virginia, but I'm not sure.
I've also been fascinated by that concept of the bars that you go into, and it's kind of like the stock market, where like if a particular beer is selling really well, they fly up the cost so you can go in and get the kind of like playing the stocks, but
I remember
safely and enjoyably.
Where was that? Was like in South Carolina or somewhere. That one.
I've always wanted to go to one, but I've never had the opportunity.
I remember seeing that. Interesting.
All right, so I think it is about that time. Let's talk about these beers.
All right, so this, I didn't mention this. This is a Huck Session 7.1%. Huck Session beer being over 7, a Huck Birthday Session being over 12. And that's my favorite kind of beer. So brewers out there sending me beers, you're going to get a good rating. I'm just going to lie through my teeth. If you send me a 14% beer, it's great. Anyway, so I'm going to take another sip here. Yeah, this is smooth. This is good IPA. No real heavy bitterness at the end. Citra hops, which everybody's doing these days. Greatest can ever, 4.5.
The can alone, I'd give it a 5. I've not, of course, tasted it yet, but oh, by the way, on Untapped, he's Huck's Beer Buzz on Horror Show. Just look for Big Nate. You'll find me. I've got the TrimTab Brewing Gravitational Nectar IPA, and solid. Not something I'd write a letter home to say, hey, go buy all of the TrimTab you can, but it's performing. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It tastes good, not offensive, pretty clean palate. Give it a 4. I think a 4 is fair.
4s are fair.
All right, Huck, you coming back next week?
I am.
All right, well then I will see you then. You've been listening to Brewsday Tuesday, brought to you by the Cellar Restaurant and Six Pack Store right here on 105.3